The ringing of the bells traditionally is a spiritual wake-up call. Preceded usually by the alarm clock. That's another kind of waking up. As we are speaking of waking up, I hope the people in Austin and Hollyhock are fully awake also. They are over there where the camera is. I'm sorry you have to get up so early. But you're here. This is the day that we spend in silence. Except for this person up here. Well, not really. Although the words are there, there's still the dimension of silence, of stillness, is present. More important than the words. So if you can be attentive to both the words and, more importantly, that which is between the words, which to the mind is nothing. And indeed it is no thing. And yet it's an energy field. The wonderful thing is, you cannot become attentive to that without the same field of stillness being activated within you. The very fact that you notice the silent gaps in between words or in between sentences means the very same silence, the very same stillness at that moment is in you also. Otherwise, you wouldn't even notice it. And you may also be surprised to find that in the moment of noticing the silent gap, you are not thinking. You may also find, if the gaps become too long, you notice it at first, and then you start thinking again. That's okay. Or you may not. But that is the most significant thing that can happen to you in this lifetime on this planet, where you've taken temporary form as a so-called person. So of course you are consciousness. the most significant thing is this: cessation of thinking without loss of consciousness. From our normal perspective, the perspective of the normal everyday mind, the perspective of thought, it looks like there's nothing there. There's nothing there that can be grasped or understood. And yet it's the ground of all being, the very ground of your existence. Existence is the manifested. Being, the way I use these words, is the unmanifested life that you are. Underneath the form, the background, we can also call it. So, to be aware here continuously of the background to all this, the field of stillness, the field of aware presence, of self-aware stillness. And also be aware of that which arises in the stillness: words, sense perceptions, bodily sensations. But to have your roots, to be grounded in the stillness. And here, all you have to do is be aware of the gaps between the words. Now there's something that cannot be manufactured, something that needs already to be there in you, a readiness, the ability even to be aware of the gaps. We could call that ability alertness. And that's the true meaning of waking up out of the dream of thought, of being identified with the continuous stream of thought. So, most of you, or almost everyone here, has this ability already. There's enough presence in you so that you can notice, be aware of the silent spaces. And in that awareness, the awareness of the silent space, really, what is a silent space? It's the absence of something. Where before there was a word, the word has returned, the sound has returned into nothingness. Before there was something, now there is nothing. So this, what is the silent space? It's the absence of something, of the thingness of life. So when we say you are aware of the silent space, it's a strange way of putting it. It works as a pointer, but what does that really mean? You are aware, first you're aware of a word, your attention is on the word, then the word disappears. And it is not replaced by inner words arising in you, because attention remains. The word disappears, and so when we say you are now aware of the gap, what's really happening is you have become self-aware. Awareness or consciousness has recognized itself. Without it, the object is gone. Just the field of bare attention remains. And that is a realm of also of great peace. The silent peace that's always there in the background. And as you realize that, it seems to become stronger. It seems to grow inside you. That's probably a perspective only, but it seems to grow and become stronger. So as you sit here, you don't grow in knowledge very much, except a few Zen stories or something. But you grow in awareness. However, any words that we use to describe it are already somewhat misleading. Perhaps a better way of putting it is to say that as you sit here, you shrink. The person shrinks. The personal sense of self that's identified with thought diminishes, and something else emerges. And so I've pointed out before, maybe not here, this is not a personal development group. Sometimes I say that when I arrive at the airport and the immigration officer says, "What are you going to do here? What do you teach?" In order to reach him at all, I sometimes say personal development and know that it's not true. But if I said personal shrinkage, he wouldn't let me in. No, the person remains, but what gradually happens is there comes a shift. The transcendent dimension in you becomes stronger than the personal. The personal can still be used. Your name, the conventions that are to do with the way for interacting with others. But more and more something else flows into that. And we could call that stillness, but not stillness as just an absence of noise, but stillness as an alive presence. So stillness flows into your sense perceptions. It flows into your looking. That's why if you've been looking at things in nature and realize that it becomes so much more alive when you don't label or interpret it. So it flows into your looking. So the stillness is also attention. It's a stream. One could call it a current of awareness. Where before there was thought, very different energy, frequency, thought. When you approach anything or perceive anything through thought, very different frequency. You can see when you look at a person, whether he or she is perceiving you through thought or through stillness. Or when a person is looking at something, you can see whether they are classifying it, interpreting it, finding some kind of personal relationship to it. People do that with trees and flowers too. Some people have the compulsion to pick flowers because they need to enter into a personal relationship with the flower, not realizing that they could be in a much deeper relationship if they went beyond the personal that says, I would like to have that. Or even if you don't pick it, you might think, how would that look in my garden, in my backyard? Or have some kind of comparison to it. Put it in some kind of comparative category. It's not even necessarily to do with yourself, but it's still I overheard a man saying he was looking at the sun, at the sky after sunset, or was it after sunrise? Just that. And he said to his companion, look at that Turner sky. Turner is a British artist who lived, I believe, in the 19th century, who painted beautiful paintings of light, sky, and just light. And finally, he was looking, but it also had to be compared to something. You can look more deeply if you don't classify and compare it to anything. And it is likely that Turner himself looked at the sky in the state of complete open presence, with reference to nothing else, not to another word, to a word, or anything else. And sometimes you find people who are walking in nature and it's beautiful and lush, but the mind comes in and for a moment they look and then they say to you, yeah, oh, you should go to Hawaii, it's even more lush there. And then they start telling you about Hawaii while you carry on walking. So this current of awareness flowing through you into your sense perceptions, your seeing, your hearing, but it also flows as a kind of emanation, because every human being has a certain emanation. Now, most humans have the emanation of mind, and many humans in addition have the emanation frequently of pain body. And many humans have a very nervous emanation, tense. Where's the next thing? They want to get to the next thing and at the same time feel threatened by the next thing that's going to come. So that's what they emanate with their whole being. And that's the entire civilization. To a large extent, big cities have that energy field that's generated by millions of people. There are certain other countries where at first it feels, there's less nervousness here. But then you realize that the energy field, although it may not be nervous, is a little sleepy. Instead of going beyond thought, they are drifting below thought. And so you tend to see lots of people sitting or lying around street corners in a state of semi-sleep. And yes, it feels, if you just arrived from New York, it feels great for a while. And you also sometimes find human beings who seem to be more peaceful. And you yourself may find that in certain situations or conditions, you're not as nervous after a few drinks, after taking this or that substance. And it's great, is a glimpse of what it means not to be thinking, that's how alive you can feel. But in many of these cases, when you've taken a few drinks, yes, you're beginning to step out of thought and you feel better. Oh, that feels good, I must have another drink. Oh, let's have another. And before you know it, you're going towards unconsciousness and sleep. Yes, you have stepped out of the stream of thinking, but have stepped, one could